Alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alaihi. Wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam tabaraka wa sallama tasliman kasiran kasira amma ba'd. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa man ahsanu qawlan mimman da'a ila Allah wa amila salihan wa qala innani minal muslimin. My dear brothers and respected elders and sisters, what is the work of a person who has recited the great Kalimah? What is the work to be done? You should ask this question to yourself. Am I only reciting the great Kalimah without doing any work? Abu Bakar, when he recited the great Kalimah, he asked Prophet Sallam, what other works I have to do after reciting this great Kalimah? So he knows that to embrace Islam is not only to recite the great Kalimah, but to do the work. And what is the purpose of the work? So that we will make, so that we'll be able, to make Allah to become very pleased with us, and will make the great Kalimah to be able to enter into our hearts. We must do the work that make Allah to become very pleased with us. Then only He will make the great Kalimah to be installed inside our belief and mind. So not only reciting the great Kalimah will make you to become a true believer. You will not be able to become a true believer if you do not do the work that make Allah to become very pleased with you, that will make Allah to install the great Kalimah into your belief. Until and unless the Kalimah have entered into your belief and mind to the level which Allah is pleased, you will never be able to become the true believers. When you are not able to become the true believers, your deeds will never become a good deeds. Then when you fail to have good deeds, and naturally you will have evil deeds. And when you have evil deeds, naturally your place will not be in paradise, it will be in hellfire. So this understanding is not in the mind and know-how of almost the entire Muslim, the so-called Muslim in the whole world since decades, not decades, centuries. They say, the scholars is saying, the so-called Muslims is saying that the first order, the first rukun of Islam, or pillars of Islam, is to recite the great Kalimah. That's all. Second, performing the 5-time daily prayer. So there's no work attached to the recitation of the great Kalimah. You need only to recite. No work is to be done. We don't need to make Allah to become happy with us. It is sufficient to recite the Kalimah. Allah is so happy, and we are already become the true believers. This is not true, and this is not the correct understanding. So in other words, all our so-called scholars, ulama in the past, have failed miserably in understanding That means in this understanding of the Quran, that everyone who have recited the great kalimah, they have to do work. The work which Allah is pleased. And when Allah is pleased with him, then only Allah will install the true kalimah, the kalimah which they have recited, into their hearts, to the level which Allah is pleased. Then only they will have good action. And when they will die as a person who are the true believer, the good deeds, then only they become a person will be able to enter paradise and be saved from hellfire. So Allah swear in the name of time, wal asri. I swear with time, Allah says. All men are at loss. All except. They mean most men are at loss except very little. The true believers with the good deed. Illal ladzina amanu wa amilu salih. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr. Allah swear in His name. Allah swear in with time, and Allah is the one who has created the time. There is no one who created time other except Allah. So Allah wants to tell that I am great. I am swearing in my name, who is great, who is able to create times. So when He swear wal asri, it means He swear in His name the most great. When He swear in His name most great, it means the thing which He swear in His name, who is most great, is the thing of utmost truth or utmost important. So He swear, wal asri, innal insana lafi. I swear with time, truly, all men are at loss. What do you mean by at loss? All men will enter hellfire, my dear, except illal ladzina amanu wa amilu salih. Except if we become the true believers with the good deeds. So Allah do not mention only that surah wal asri until then, until illal ladzina amanu wa amilu salih. He also in that verse of the Quran tell to the entire mankind what works you have to do. What works? Works you have to do, so that I'll become pleased with you, so that I will make the great kalimah to enter into your heart, so that you'll become the true believers of good deeds. This surah are not understood as this. Many have made the tafseer that in order to become successful person, you need to do 4 things, or you need to have 4 things. First, you have to have iman. Second, you have to have good deeds. Third, you must do the work of watawasa bil haq. And the fourth, you must be patient. And these are the tafsir, interpretation of the so-called entire ulama, scholars in the whole world since centuries, not decades. So far, all the while, all the so-called scholars have understood this, that in order to become successful, you have to have 4 things. You must have iman. If you have iman only, you will not be able to become. You have to need, he said, good action. If you have iman and good action, you're not sufficient. You must do the work of watawasa bil haq. Or it didn't say work. You must, do watawasa bil haq. And you must and be patient. He said. They don't understand this surah. They interpret it wrongly. So Quran is a book of truth, the words of Allah. Nothing in the Quran antagonizing other verses. None of the verses of the Quran antagonizing other verses. all complement each other. But when they make tafseer, in order to become successful, you need to have 4 things: iman, amal, watawasaw bil haq, watawasaw bis sabr. It means this is the only surah in the Quran. While in Surah Wat-Tin, Allah says the one who are successful, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihah. But not the other 2 things mentioned in Surah Al-Asr. How could this antagonizing each other? So in other words, your interpretation is wrong. It is wrong to interpret that in order to become successful, you need to do 4 things, or you need to have 4 things. So this wrong interpretation make people not to understand how to become a true believer of the good deeds. This wrong interpretation has been accepted as truth for centuries, being lectured by all the so-called scholars and ulama in the whole world, in the whole Islamic world, and has been adopted as truth by the entire Muslim community in the whole world. When they say in order to become successful, you have to have iman, you have to have amal, you have to do the work of remind each other for the truth, and you have to be patient. This interpretation doesn't tell you anything. How to obtain iman? Not mentioned. How to obtain samal saleh? How to do the work? You don't understand it. So the whole Muslim community doesn't understand at all from this surah. To become successful, you need to have 4 things. It doesn't. But no other surah in the Quran saying the same thing. Al-Asr, 4 things. How could only in Surah Al-Asr? The whole Quran so thick, how to become a true believer of the good deeds are not mentioned. It means not mentioned in another part of the Quran. That shows that they don't understand. They can memorize Quran, they can read the Quran, they can know Arabic, but they don't understand the Quran. In order to become successful, a person only needs to become a true believer with the good deeds. In the whole Quran is mentioned. What should be in Surah Al-Asr? 4 things. Only 2 things, not 4 things. To become successful, you don't need to have 4 things. You need to have 2 things only. The interpretation of the Surah Al-Asr, the correct one. What you need? True faith and good action. And it's mentioned the same thing in the whole Quran as such. So you should forget this wrong interpretation of the Quran. Otherwise, you will misunderstood the Quran. As a result of misunderstanding, you lead to wrong actions. And the so-called Muslims and the whole over the world doesn't understand what it means by watawasaw bil haq. They don't understand. Remind each other about the truth. Watawasaw bil haq. Haq means truth. What is haq? No, don't know. What is truth? Don't know. They say all truth. What is all truth? What is the main truth? They don't know. What is the main truth? Mentioned in this surah is not all truth. What is all truth? To remind each other about the truth is to remind about the kalimah of truth. What is the kalimah of truth? There is no God except Allah, and Muhammad is a messenger. That is the interpretation. Watawasaw bil haq. Anyone interpret as such? None. Maybe you don't know, but you don't know because it was not communicated to you. Watawasaw bis sabr. who remind each other about patience. What does it mean? When you do some work, you must do it in a correct way. When you remind each other about kalimah La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, you must do it correctly. What is the way? You have to do it way of patience. What is patience? You must repulse evils with good deeds, with the truth. You must repulse bad deeds with good deeds. That is patience. Nobody understands as such. In other words, in order to become a true believer with the good deeds, you must do the work of inviting people, about the truth, reminding people about the truth. You invite people to the truth when is that you have to invite the non-Muslim to recite the great kalimah. You remind about the truth, you remind the one who have recited the great kalimah about the truth. What is the truth? The kalimah La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There are many people who doesn't want to remind each other about the kalimah. Oh no. If I remind and talk more about this kalimah, I will be tested by Allah. I do not want. I do not want to be tested. I don't want hardship. I want comfort. I do not Allah to test me when I do not Allah want to test me. So because I do not want to recite the great kalimah frequently. I do not like to remind others about the great kalimah. This is what the attitude that they have, because they don't understand this surah. In that surah Wal Asri specifically mentioned to remind each other about the truth. They don't know the truth. The truth is the kalimah, the great kalimah. There is no God except Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Watawassaw bis-sabr, to do the work with patience. One, to do the work. Second, to do the work correctly. If you do any work and not correct, you will not get the outcome. What is the outcome of watawassaw bil-haq, watawassaw bis-sabr? I mean, doing the correct work in the correct way. The outcome is you will become the true believers with good deeds. Then you will become the person who are not at loss. A very short verses of 4 ayat only, yet it has a very tremendous meaning and very significant. And many do not understand this. Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi simply say, it's not, I don't know whether he understand or what, but he never explained. I have not heard anybody explaining what Imam Shafi'i understand by that surah. But he did say, if ever the Quran is not being revealed, only surah Wal Asri is revealed, it is enough for anyone to become successful. Do you know this or not? Such a very, what he said is something very great, not simple. It's not easy for somebody to, if Quran is not revealed, only the surah Wal Asri. Can anyone say that if he is not convinced, of that surah? Even to the extent he said, if the Quran is not revealed, only the surah Wal Asri, it is sufficient. The Sahaba used to, when they meet, they remind each other about the surah Wal Asri, then they sit among themselves, reminding each other about the great kalimah. That become their custom. Some of them. Some do not want. So the one who doesn't want went to Rasulullah. Why this Sahaba talk kalimah to me? Rasulullah said, this is the way. There are some also, like nowadays Muslim, they don't like to talk kalimah. They say, if you ask me to talk kalimah, you think I'm not Muslim, I'm not Islam. Oh, you want to convert me? I'm already Islam lah. I see. They're thinking only at the time when we enter Islam, only recite the kalimah. Other than that, no more. Only once. This is not true. We have to frequently reminding each other about the kalimah. The Muslim doesn't understand it. Why? You have seen anybody, you meet someone, Assalamualaikum, Waalaikumsalam. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw. And he mentioned it in Malay. Allah swear in His name, all men are lost except those who are true believers of good deeds, who remind each other about the truth, who remind each other about patience. Let me now remind each other. Okay, in the name of Allah, the most magnificent, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. With the intention to please Allah, I'm reminding myself and you, there is no God except Allah. There is no one who knows except Allah. There is no one who can give harm or benefit except Allah. Then when he complete, the other person, you also. Many people do not like. Oh, how come I have to talk about kalimah? You think I'm not Muslim? See? It's not that we only have to recite the kalimah once only, and we will not recite it anymore until we die. Nabi Sallam say, you have to frequently talk about the kalimah until you die. Frequently, profusely. These are not understood by us. We like, when we meet anybody, we talk about dunya, and that's it. When we meet, talk dunya. When we meet, we talk dunya. When we meet, we talk about our work, our family, our job, nothing about Allah. So any gathering without remembrance of Allah is futile. Every gathering which had no names of Allah is mentioned is futile and useless. So that's why the Sahaba used to do that, some of them. And it is a practice which should be adopted by us too. Because there is in the surah, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, reminding. Reminding is for those who have recited the kalimah. For those who don't have the kalimah, you have to invite them. So in other words, when we meet a non-Muslim, we invite them first to recite the kalimah. Then only we talk about our worldly things. That should be our attitude. Then when we meet a Muslim, we must remind each other about the great kalimah. Then only we talk about dunya. And we talk about dunya, we don't forget to mention about the name of Allah. If somebody will ask you, when you'll come to my house, you say, if Allah permits, I will come. When will you do this? Only with the permission of Allah, I will do this. All Allah, even when we talk about dunya, we do not neglect mentioning the name of Allah. If all the so-called Muslims are able to do this, then how can they lose their iman? The iman will keep on going, increasing. They're doing gash, jawla, they're visiting from house to house. Whenever they talk, whenever they meet a non-Muslim, first recite, invite them to recite the kalimah. And then only talk about worldly things. If they go meet the Muslim, then only first they remind each other about the kalimah, then only they talk. You will find what words come out from his mouth which are not kalimah. All the entire words which are uttered by him in the whole day will be the words about the kalimah. And naturally the iman will grow. So Rasulullah said, in the meaning of hadith, he says, increase your iman. Make your iman to be elevated. The Sahaba asked, how? Frequently speaking about the great kalimah. These are not practiced at all. Even by the so-called ulama, the so-called scholars, and what more, the people like you, all dirty people, like Sufyan, devils, will not talk about the kalimah, because the so-called scholars also do not talk. Devil like Rashidi will not talk about the kalimah, because we are devils. When we meet, we only talk dunya. This practice has been completely dead. And it is dead because it's not being practiced. Even among those. Now I'm just telling you, but it is not practiced. None is practicing it. None. There is one guy, he learned from me about about great kalimah. So whenever he meet anybody, I mean basically when he met all the so-called workers of da'wah, tabligh, say Assalamualaikum. Then he starts saying, I didn't say Ariman. He's saying in Malay, there's no God except Allah. There's no one who do good except Allah. There's no one who can give harm and benefit except Allah. 4 months, he said. Go for 4 months, that's all. He's dead already. Well known, the only person. Whenever he meet any worker, but I don't think he do to other people. Only those karkun they call. They meet. There is no God except Allah. There's no one who give benefit, harm except Allah. There is no great except Allah. 4 months. Then he go another person. He speak it. He did it wrongly. After he speaking about the kalimah, he asked, go 4 months. He is saying that, as if he's saying that, so that these people will go 4 months in the path of ibadah. So something that we don't do it correctly, you will not last. So we must first of all, Assalamualaikum, how you remind each other about kalimah. Then we tell them. After I speak, you also speak. You also speak. After speak. Then after that is completed, then only we start discussing. What worldly thing they want. You don't even do among yourself. When you meet someone, you don't talk about kalimah, isn't it? Why? Why you don't talk about the kalimah? Maybe you don't talk the kalimah when you meet me, but others among you, do you talk about kalimah? Why? When there is a surah, wal asri, watawasaw bil haq. Watawasaw bil haq is an order, It's a words of order. Why you don't talk about the kalimah when you meet each other? Why? Answer me. Why? Why? No. Because you don't understand this surah. This surah, simple surah. Watawasaw bil haq. It's an order that you remind each other about the truth. Why you don't do it? First, I've told you already many times before. But still, until today, I don't see you doing. Until today, I don't see any one of you who is doing it. Isn't it? Why you don't do it? Because you don't obey me. Betul tak? Do you obey me? When you listen to my lecture like this, only listening. Then after that, wash my hand and do the same thing as I used to do, as usual. Talking about dunya only. If you make a solemn pledge, I will not talk dunya until I talk about Allah. Then you will do this. If you ever do this, how could your iman be decreases? It will keep on increasing. It comply with the hadith. Frequently talk about the kalimah, Rasulullah, until you die. Sufyan did not understand my lecture, do not obey it, and do as usual, talk about dunya. And naturally when we talk only about dunya, what will happen? We will tend to believe in the thing which we are talking frequently and hearing frequently. If every single minute of our life we are only talking about dunya, naturally we believe that the dunya is very important. We will not believe that Allah is the doer, Allah is the creator, Allah is our Lord, because we are not speaking about it and not hearing about it. only the simple work among yourself. Yeah? You don't make 2-3 people. Start the practice if you want this practice to be made alive in the entire Muslim world. If you don't start, it will not be made alive. Because even the person who are the so-called student of mine are not practicing. Naturally, the whole world will never practice it. Will they? Will they practice it? Because you don't. When there is no one in the world practice it, the practice will not be made to be alive in the entire world. For the practice to be made alive in the whole world, we have to do the practice. Understand? Otherwise, the practice will not. If we want to make salat to be alive, we have to pray. If you want to make the work of inviting people to good, forbidding people from evil to become alive, we have to do the work. If we don't do, we are the same as killing it. Make the work to die, to be buried. That's why Rasulullah said, those who don't pray, they are the ones who are destroying Islam. Who destroy Islam? Those who don't practice Islam. Who kill Islam? The one who kill Islam is the one who don't practice Islam. If you want to make Islam alive, you have to practice it. The most important things which Allah has mentioned in Surah Al-Asr, that is among you, you must frequently reminding each other about the truth, about the kalimah la ilaha illallah, and you remind each other with patience. Patience means if someone do not like it and scolded you, you don't scold them back. Thank you, I'm sorry sir, I will not do it again with you next time. Don't do with him. Don't remind him about the kalimah. When you meet a non-Muslim, then you must mention about the kalimah and invite him. Then only you give money to him or talk about dunya, anything. If only this to become your way of living in this world, then you are following wal asri, and then only you'll be made to become the true believers with the good deeds. So in order to become the true believer whom Allah have said to be the only one who is successful, the work that you have to do is to invite people to the truth or to remind people about the truth, and to do the work with patience. That means if people do evil to you, repulse it, pay back with good work. This is patience. Don't quarrel, don't fight, don't scold back. Only remain silent, not like Rashidi. No? It's not, he when somebody scold, he scold them back. That is not doing the work with patience. Clearly mentioned in Surah, وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. These are only the two works. One is doing the work, second doing the work correctly. Of course, if you do the work not correctly, you will not get the result. Any work must be done correctly. Then only you got the outcome. Then you will become the true believers with good deeds. That's all the surah is mentioning. If we understand like this, we should practice it. If we don't, then we don't. As mentioned by the rest, 4 things we need to do or to have to become successful. No, only 2 things to become successful: to become the true believer and the good deeds. And to become believer good deeds, we have to do it correctly, the work of Watawasul Haq, and to do it, we have to do the work of Watawasul Haq and do it correctly with patience. Okay? Bye.